I was at shows time, and that's when we had Tower Records here, and I was at Newbury Comics, and they wouldn't let me give a Jamiroquai modem away because they thought I was promoting the internet too much. And then I ended up going to New York and being in New York for 25 years and going through major labels at Columbia Records, running college marketing departments, and then was head of marketing at Atlantic Records, had an average of about 80 to 100 artists at a time with a team of about 12. And everything has shifted in the music industry, but the core of building a brand and a community is never off trend. So now I've survived the industry on that side, and now I'm trying to educate students on how to navigate the industry and how to build a brand, a fan, and community from the very beginning, and ultimately how marketing is the lessons you can learn from understanding music marketing, because it's the first in line of disruption. And as the youngest, most finicky, toughest customers out there. So I think what happens in the music industry will happen in other industries as time continues. So that's what I'm trying to share.
My name's Emmy McSwain. I grew up on Hanscom Air Force Base, which is about 13 miles out of the city. I went to Berkeley for songwriting, and I graduated in 2022. I don't have much experience in like the professional music industry world, but I have experience in like building a brand as myself. So I'm an artist. I'm in 2 bands in Boston, and I started posting on social media about a year and a half ago, and I've grown to over 40,000 followers on Instagram. And because of that package that I've created, a version of myself online, I've gotten a lot of opportunities that I think like a musician with my experience might not have. So I definitely have experience in like building yourself from nothing to something in a virtual capacity.
Tough group to follow. Jeff Porter, I'm a local hip hop artist. Performed over 60, 70 times in the area, doing a lot of kind of low paying free gigs, trying to get my name out there more. But been a hip hop head my whole life. For my day job, I'm actually a software marketer for a startup company. So a little bit different, but trying to move my day job more into a music career, like my day job. So good to meet Nina tonight. But, yeah, so just trying to grind it out and learn from Emmy as well. And Tim does a lot of great work in the community too. So really happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we're really excited to have y'all here. Thank you so much for sharing your time and energy with us. We're going to jump into some questions. This is going to be a bit of like a organic conversation between us, and we want to make sure that it's interactive with you all. So we want to, engage you all if you have questions. If you also we're experts in our own right, but there's also a lot of expertise in this room. So let's share that collectively. Like we could be learning from one another in this discussion conversation also. So we'll jump in. We've kind of done a few flexes here, but in terms of like accomplishments in our career. So we'll move on to the share a memorable concert that you've been to in the last 5 years.
We'll just start at the end.
For me, my cousin lives in Los Angeles, and he got tickets to Lil Wayne at Crypto Arena, and he didn't get the Super Bowl, and his last album was very bad. So I went in with lower expectations. He's my favorite rapper ever, and it was the best concert I've been to. So I know it's crazy, but it was.
Lil Wayne,
it was.
Be fired to say
it was. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think my favorite concert was more than 5 years ago. It was just like I had just turned 18. And I just picked a random venue that was 18 plus, like a random show. And it happened to be Tall Heights, which is like a local band. And it was at the Sinclair. And that I had just gotten into Berkeley. Like, I was like, oh my God, I can do it. Like, well, it's just like they're a really cool band because they started like busking at Faneuil Hall, and they really have like built themselves in Boston ground up. And so it was really cool to see a band that only felt like a few degrees away from me on a stage as big as the Sinclair. But I just got to partner with MGM on Monday night, and so they like invited me to a show. And I think Ray takes like the cake for like because
So Saturday, I was like $600 for 2 tickets.
I know. It's online, you can get them for free, you can get all your drinks comped, and you can be whatever. So they had me out there, and I think I don't really like MGM that much because it's a little bit of a sterile venue. Anytime I've been there and I've seen a show and they have tracks and a live artist, I've never noticed that like the mix does justice to the live performer. But Ray had like an 18-piece band. Like I'm sure there was canned reverb and there was a little bit, but it was so light in the tracks. And it was like almost entirely live. And nothing was to a click. She told stories between every song. It was like the most organic and like it was like the coolest show I've really seen and like the most authentic from like a big artist like her. So she gets props. Yeah.
Mine is a little non-traditional because there's a lot of great shows I've seen in the last 5 years, and which has been really fun. Like I love the smaller shows where you're in the trenches and there's sense of discovery and like you're seeing people really like come together. But I have to say one of the most memorable ones as a marketer and as a fan community, I guess passionate person is I went to Austria to go see the Taylor Swift show because I worked with Paramore, who was opening up, and I wanted to see them in Europe. And right when I landed, I was told that the show was canceled because of an ISIS attack. And I'm like, way to go, pick an ISIS attack location. But the remaining 3 days there, watching the fan community in Austria without a concert for 3 days was one of the most fascinating experiences because they just came together. They were like hundreds of them in a like square singing 3 hours of what they thought would be the set list. Wow. And sharing bracelets and so happy and like not like mad that the concert was canceled, but like what a dream for a fan community to have that level. And yes, she's a big artist, but I mean that level of like, first of all, a lot of crying people, a lot of crying little girls, a lot of crying moms, like a lot of crying people. But overall, just seeing the fan community come in when the show was canceled and what they did with that time was pretty magical to see.
Right. I got to see Olivia Dean last year when she came. My wife and I became fans on watching her on YouTube. We just like stumbled upon one of her live shows, and we I think became really, really, really hardcore fans at the early for like her first release, maybe even before that, or at least commercial release. And that was such a similar to like your experience with Ray, where there's this it's like five or six piece band, but just a very organic feeling live experience. She plays multiple instruments, and the audience was like clearly. I was like, "Whoa, I'm an outlier here." So it was like young women, like 18 to 22. Like very much an outlier, but I like love this, love this artist and love the experience. It was really, really dope to, I think from that marketing perspective, at least, to catch the eye, the interest of an artist, and follow their journey and be invested. Both my wife and I have been invested in her artistic growth over the years. So I think that made it even more exciting. And we went on our dating anniversary, like our 10-year anniversary. Mm-hmm. So like just made it a special thing. A little bit about us, y'all, and our taste and our interests. So how does marketing show up in your work currently, and what are you all, what might be one or two things that you're noticing as very important things to be aware of as it relates to music industry?
I think, at least in my case, like locking in with a videographer and like getting a pillar piece of content and then kind of breaking that into like micro content. So just for example, like I was rolling out an EP where I had like 7 different songs and we did 7 different locations for each song. We did like a 20-second kind of clip and then kind of stitched it all together for like a long form, like short film for YouTube, and then I used all those individually as reels on Instagram, and that was kind of a fun experiment. But I think just getting yourself out there as much as you can, and like an up-and-coming artist, going on your podcast, you can, performing and like doing any show, literally any show that you can do. I performed at my cousin's wedding in Morocco. That was pretty fun. Yeah, I have to match your flexes a little bit. Yeah, I think like figuring out Instagram, which you've obviously done. I'm trying to do more of, but I think like the micro content is where things are going. Yeah.
So I started recording my first record like 2 years ago, like July 2020, whatever, 2 years ago. And when I was using a studio, and so after 2 sessions, I was like, this is gonna be expensive. I have to figure out how to make people care about me before I care about it, you know? So that's why I just started posting every single day. I started September 19th, and I was like, I'm gonna post every day. I didn't know what I was gonna post about. And if you go back to September 19th to like October 19th, my videos don't make sense. They're bad. But you learn so much from posting. And the one thing that I have not wavered from is starting every video with my full name. That's like a star factor, like Katy Perry is Katy Perry, Bruno Mars is Bruno Mars. And so now when I see people on the street, they come up to me and they know my name. They go, Emmy McSwain, and they'll stop me on my bike. They'll stop me at the grocery store. Like I went for a walk in Brookline. I had 2 people stop me, and they say my full name. And so I think that that's like a really important part. I started approaching social media because I knew like I'm going to be the artist, I'm the product. Like I don't need to shove my music down people's throats in order to post, because I had this realization, like influencers, they are a single person marketing agency. Like they make money because they're trying to sell you a newly code or like a supplement or whatever. Unless they have their own company, which a lot of them don't. Like a lot of girls my age that are influencers don't, but they make money based off commissions, based off doing ads for other companies. But I was like, I actually have a product that I can sell at the end of the day. And so that also empowered me to post as a musician, because I'm writing songs about my life. Like I want to be somebody that people feel like they know. And that's also like, if you don't want that, maybe you shouldn't be a musician, because you're on stage and like this whole thing with like Chapel Roan, like I'm like, did you not know what you were signing up for? Like sometimes I'm out with my friends and I'll get stopped and they're always like, is it like weird for you? I'm like, no, this is the coolest thing ever. Like I work at Trader Joe's. I've worked there since 2019, and I like working there because then I can say no to brand deals that I like don't want to do. I've like made a mission to not do any collaborations with Seaport because I don't feel like they're doing anything for like real Bostonians. But it's because I work at Trader Joe's that I can say no to things like that. But it's also like the coolest thing when I'm ringing somebody up and they're like, oh my God, you're Emmy McSwain. And it's so goofy, and like my coworkers are so over it. But it's like things like that. Like I now have a record that's done. And I'm like, I played one show for a single that came out in February. I had like over 120 people in the audience. And for somebody who like hadn't played a show in a couple of years, I really did not know what to expect. But like people came because they felt like they knew me. And at that point, like music is music. And you also have to understand that like not everyone who hears your music is going to like it. And I think that that's like also discouraging for people. So it's like casting your net as wide as you can to find those like 20% of listeners who are like, oh, this is actually good. But also like I spent 2 years recording a record. I only have 12 songs to show for it. And so if I'm building a platform based off of like, this is what's going to get me there, you only have 12 songs. And I mean, not like, but it's just like approaching it from a place that's not a musician. If you're really expecting to make it off of 12 songs and you're only starting the groundwork when you're starting to release it, then it's only going to your friends and family. And like, they love you, but they're not going to support your career. So you have to think about like, how can I find my fans? Because they're the ones that I need.
your friends aren't your fans. So
Yeah.
it's tough pill to swallow as an artist, but
Mhm.
and when you start out, it's just there's a lot of bias involved. Like you're getting your stuff out there, and you think like, oh, I'm building a fan base, but like you're not. Like you said, it's there's a lot of bias, and there's people that won't even give you a chance because they went to their middle school with you, and then it's like, I know him. Like, what is he doing rapping? Like, yeah, I know, but doing it. So it's like it's kind of tough. I really that resonates with me.
I think what you're doing is perfectly on brand for you, and not everybody's not comfortable doing that, but like you're having fun with it. And by the way, like we forgot the fun because it's so overwhelming, and like we have to like people gravitate to something entertaining. If you look at the content that you're following or you like and you're sharing, it's probably something unexpected or a little disruptive or fun, and just that's it. So it is trying to find a way to put that in there. I think that I used to always use the example of like when I first started at Sony in Lexington. It was like marketing a campaign or releasing a campaign was like a puzzle for a 3-year-old. It was just like probably like 10 little pieces. Like we got radio, we got video, we got set, like that's it. And like now it's like 1,000-piece gray sky.
Yo.
And the man, you're like, oh my God, I got so much fun. Like that's one little piece. And up until TikTok, nothing really individually moved the dial. TikTok individually moved the dial, but didn't create like career fans. It created like spikes of interest and awareness, right? So I think what I see as a marketer, at least on the music side, we used to wait for everything was perfect and done and then release it. It was all really controlled. And now it's like really maximizing every opportunity and taking people along the process. That when they're in the studio making the record, as a marketer, I'm like, I want them to have their vision board. They're working on their vision board while they're making the music because you're the closest to understanding what it feels like, what you're seeing, what colors you're seeing, what energy you're connecting to right now, and not waiting till it's completely done. I'd say, unfortunately, A&R team would be like absentee parents that just drop them off, be like, "Here you go." I'm like, well, what? How do I feed them? Like, what are they? You need to really be a part of the process from the beginning and get in with them on understanding that where creatively they want to go. But the storytelling, I mean, we see it everywhere talking about marketing. It's like, it's everything. It's about the storytelling and being really deliberate with it, and being really patient. My old chairman, Julie Greenwald and Max Lasada just started a label called 26.2 because that's the marathon. Like, and they're like, they always say, it's like, it is a marathon. It is you're planting seeds. It's also, I love thinking of Tyler, the creator, who always says like, the content you're creating is like, don't worry about who sees it. Don't worry about how many people like it right now. Just keep building. It's like building your resume. And once you wake them up for something, then they see a series of things to hopefully get them in on your brand.
Like you give them something to binge. Like in your case, you've been
Yeah.
building this repository for 2 years straight. If someone finds you in that next 2 years, they can go back and like just keep going to the next reel and just
Yeah.
it's important.
Also, it's also like building that trust. Like if you have one awesome reel that's a clip from a music video that does so well, and they go to your page and they only see that one reel, they're like, well, why would I follow them? Like they posted one. So it's also like if you only want to do exclusively music stuff, just fine. But you still have to be posting consistently because people want something all the time. I've also pivoted recently on my social media to like showcase more the music scene. And I think that's something that it's a little bit discouraging because I think that musicians are like a very selfish group of people. And they treat everybody as fans, and it's not as much of a community as I think that I would like it to be. But I'm trying to use my platform to showcase like how awesome other people are. Because again, like 20% of people are gonna like my music, but maybe you like hip hop, maybe you like hardcore music. So it just trying to use your platform to help others too. I think it's how you build like a community and how I get partnerships with MGM.
I look at myself or marketing from a broader perspective of beyond just music. It's my whole self. Because I'm bringing my whole self to any space that I'm going into. I mean, when we think about our own character as people, like what we want people to think of when they think of us, um, you know, how we impact people. I think that marketing plays a way in like how we show up and how we, present ourselves. You hear the like the first impression is important and so forth. So me being a transplant, I moved here in 2013. It was right after, unfortunately, the marathon bombing, and working at Berkeley. There was a lot going on. The city was going through a lot. Um, so for like the first couple of years, I was just getting my bearings for the city. I grew up in Detroit, but I like jumped around the Midwest. I moved here from Iowa. Very weird and random. I don't know how I ended up there. Well, I do, but like I never thought that I would. And I spent 4 years there and loved it. Was surprised that I loved it. The music scene there, vibrant. And thankfully I've been able to. I lived in Iowa, I lived in Minneapolis, I lived in Ohio and Detroit, and I've been in the music industry in all of those cities. So moving to Boston, I had an awareness of how to engage with the arts ecosystem. And the biggest thing for me and my survival here, because I hated it when I first moved here, was connecting with my other weirdos, which were the other creatives and artists. So knowing how to find that community and find those people, what in some ways was my first step at building connection with people. And that is a marketing, I think, strategy in the sense of human to human connection, showing up for the community, learning and supporting the venue, supporting artists. And from that, my business card was, hey, my name is Tim Hall. You sound really dope. If you ever need a saxophonist for a record or a show, let me know. And that was how I marketed myself. It was a very simple one-liner moment. I'll hit you up on a DM and we'll go from there. And slowly over time, once one artist booked me, I was able to then have that kind of word of mouth referral. And started to get booked by other artists and put myself out there more and more and more. So for me, I feel like how I've been able to grow in this scene organically and authentically has first been to recognize like I'm a bit of an outsider here. So let me resource myself with the understanding of what's the arts ecosystem in the scene. Who are the stakeholders, the venues, the studios, the artists, the platforms, et cetera, the DJs, all of those things is just learn and grow and understand what's here. Then from there, I started to observe like, cool, how can I be of value to this community? Like no one knows me. There's no point in me trying to pitch myself to this place in a way when no one knows me, but I can be of value. I can bring my skill sets and say like, hey, I can help out here, or I can volunteer here, or I can show up here. And that brought me to my business partner, Cliff Notes, who's originally from Boston. He's the founder of our company, Hipstery. Catherine Morris, who is the executive director of BAMS Fest, Boston Art, Music, and Soul Festival. I've essentially helped start the festival back in 2015 with her, and have been a part of that ever since. And those particular stakeholders, along with all of the other artists I've been able to work with, it all started from me being like, yo, can I help out? Or like, can I contribute? Can I add? Like, yo, this sounds really, really dope. Where can I fit myself? And I think to your point, Emmy, for me, I recognized early on that I'm a bit bougie. So I've always had a job. I was like, I gotta have a certain kind of lifestyle. So I've always had some kind of like, ever since I graduated undergrad, I've had a salary job up until 2020 when I transitioned from my full-time role in the Career Center. So I formerly was the assistant director in the Career Center at Berkeley, and transitioned to teaching part-time. And that was like the first time where I was like, yo, I'm part-time and whatnot. But I had built gigs and so forth going into 2020 that would sustain me over time. And with that work of 2013 to 2019, 2020, a pandemic, I made maybe 5K less as a working artist than I was as a salaried individual. And there was a lot of the work that I put into building a reputation, putting myself out there, building a contact list, starting to understand the ecosystem and who I need to, where the resources are, who's funding certain things. I was able to sustain myself during a pandemic and make just as much as I was as a salaried individual. And that for me was like a catalytic moment for me to realize like, yo, the things that I've been doing are working. This path as a professional musician to sustain myself is possible. And I tell my students now, like, I wake up every day and every week doing what I love to do and making money with my friends. And like, how do I help y'all do that? Because that's like the best thing. I don't want to do anything else other than that, really. I did want to take a pause and get a bit of a scope for like who's in the room. So we have artists, creatives, raise a hand. There's artists, well, educators, folks on kind of education side, more like business, corporate kind of side. Who am I missing? Anyone that feels like they have not been identified? Word.
Film and video.
Film and video, word. Awesome. And then what might be a couple of urgent things that you would hope to receive in this space?
Ooh.
Throw something out there. Boston is a much smaller and much more fragmented of a music and arts and creative scene than many other places. Like, how do you guys see it like growing, evolving? Like, do you think that it is something that is obviously you guys are all making a success of it in your own way, but is it something that you see as a something that's continuing to grow, or is this just like a stepping stone to the next big market?
So we got that. I'm gonna hold on to that.
So I remember I used to be in a band, and I remember that 10 years ago, an EP or a CD was basically your business card. I'm interested to know, like, maybe that will be a question for you two guys. What's the place nowadays of an actual CD in presenting yourself, in marketing yourself?
We'll take one more just to like understand.
Yeah, I'm wondering what you guys have been talking a lot about social media and also how artists now, it's so accessible to be a musician. And the biggest challenge is you sort of have to bootstrap yourself and market yourself and make your own brand. So I'm wondering how you guys see all the benefits of music being accessible and people being able to brand themselves, but also what challenges you guys think come with that and how they can be mitigated from your perspective.
Right. Yeah, awesome. Thank y'all. And we'll obviously, make some more time for additional things, but it's just helpful for us to kind of guide some of our responses to some of these things. So actually, kind of speaking to the local scene, what do we see as, the growth of the scene? Even so, for those that may not know, what did it used to kind of like look like, and where do you see it going?
I think something that is just not talked about enough is the number of college students that Boston gets every fall. There's like 130,000 people from all over the country, all over the world that come to Boston. And these are the kids that are going to go out to a small show on a Tuesday night. Like, that is your audience. Like, Boston locals, like, when you have them on your side, they're diehard. So they're great, but they're a little bit harder to get a hold of. But these kids, like, they want to go out on a Tuesday, Wednesday. They want to see small shows. They want to feel like they're discovering something. And so I feel like I really don't understand the world of like corporate music, like brand, labels, like the big dogs. But I feel like the college students don't get enough of, I don't know, they don't get enough credit for all the things that they can do. If you make a fan from somebody who's from a small town in the Midwest, and you play a show there in 3 years and they're back home, like, they're gonna come see you. And so I feel like there's this huge influx of students who just are so hungry to experience something cool and different and new. And so I think that is a huge asset that Boston has that I just don't see like people targeting enough.
So I would want to jump in on that because that's exactly like, that's a great point, but I also feel like this is underutilized as well. And I just started, when I moved back, I started teaching and trying to go where my favorite question is, where can I be of value? So I'm like, okay, let me help. So I'm speaking to Berkeley students, and we have a couple here. And then I went to Northeastern, and I'm like, well, you guys need to know each other. And then I went to Emerson. I'm like, well, you guys need to go here because you can film for Berkeley. Berkeley had the studio, and Northeastern doesn't have a studio. And then I spoke to Boston College, and I just did this thing at Harvard for their music club. I'm like, wait, you guys all need to know each other. So there is some of that happening, and I can't solve all that, but I am trying to make that connection. But I think that Boston has an incredible potential for that angle. That was really a good point too, but also you're 4 hours from New York City, but they're seriously fragmented. And I know Berkeley students have like an obscene amount of classes each semester, so they don't always have time, but it does seem like there needs to be a better ecosystem of even how they can help each other, because again, like if we say some of the Berkeley students who are musicians, like they don't always know how to market themselves or create the content. They don't know how to do that. And then, but like you can, or like you're at Emerson who can do that. Northeastern has Green Line Records, and like maybe you can work with them. Like there just needs to be a stronger connection. So I'm excited about that, but I don't know where all the answers are going to be. But I do think that has incredible potential.
Yeah, I think as an up and coming artist, there's a lot you can do as you're just starting out. There may be that ceiling where you may have to take that train ride to New York or go to LA for other like really big opportunities. But just in my experience, I've had the fortune of doing like 60 to 70 shows with this group called Bars Over Bars Media. And essentially it's free shows for the artist, and they'll do a show at a sneaker store, at a bar, in the mall, like pretty much anywhere that someone will host them and have a show. All the artists are pretty much showcasing and starting out, but then if you keep doing more and more shows, you'll get an opportunity to headline a show and have like a longer set. And a lot of times you kind of split the ticket sales and all that. So that's just one example. There's also other great community events that I think are happening in the space. There's a studio in Lowell, So Ripe Studios. They do an event monthly called Pass the Aux, where artists can go and play their music in front of like anyone who bought a ticket to the event. There's judges, usually they're artists that are in the industry or producers. And then if you win that, if you place in first through third, you get like studio time or a free music video or things like that. So I think as an artist and you're up and coming, like you should try to go to all those events that you can, just to network. And like I said, perform as much as you can, but you might hit that ceiling. And I feel like I'm kind of at right now where I'm thinking about other areas to potentially move to, but that's just my own case.
Yeah, and I think I like sit in the like not student, not commercial, sit in that very, very heavy local space where I do actually a lot of my joy is bridging the understanding or the gap of my Berkeley students and the ecosystem of Boston. Berkeley, they get all the big names on the Grammys and so forth, and there are artists who don't have access to a college like Berkeley who are doing some incredible things and utilizing the strategies we're talking about in this classroom, but are figuring it out themselves. I've been able to make a strong following for themselves. And I would say the music scene locally is probably at one of its peaks in a very, very, very long time. I mean, we have our greats like New Edition and so forth, and I don't think we've necessarily hit that, but we have artists who have very local following who are hitting the million streams on online, who are getting commercial looks, who are producing for JID and J. Cole, who are getting pulled into some commercial spaces. You have artists that are not starting, but have built some wider name for themselves, recognition for themselves, but are very locally rooted, which I don't think we've had that. And I've now been here 13 years, and I thankfully can say that I've been able to be a contributor to the scene in terms of building platforms like my company Hipstery. One of our first programs back in 2016 was Hipstery House Parties, and this was before So Far Sounds got into the scene to do intimate shows. And we have artists like Oompa and Latrell James who were getting kind of started in some way, shape, or form, and being able to provide a platform for them, and then see them years later getting these really big opportunities that have been career changing and life changing, and to be like, oh wow, like we've seen the 10-year growth spurt of these artists that were really, really grinding it out. You have artists like Clark D, who is out in Atlanta currently, but really killing it, hitting multiple million stream type of numbers and so forth, where we didn't see that 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, pre-pandemic, really. So I think we're in a beautiful scene. One website that I would highly suggest is to look at the BostonMusicAwards.com. The Boston Music Awards has been around since the 70s. It's in the last 10 years gotten a really big facelift. It's kind of like our local Grammys. But the resource is the nominations list. The beautiful thing over the last 5 or so years is that the categories have become broader to be more inclusive of the various stakeholders within the music industry. Things like lighting techs and box offices and journalists and so forth. That, you know, those categories that exist, there are genres that have now become inclusive on this list. And though it is in no way a full kind of picture of the scene, I think it is a very type like focus group of the scene and of individuals who are recognized and respected in the scene. So I use that as a resource to a lot of my students. And like, if you're looking to get into the Boston scene, go to this website, go to the nominations list, look at all of the artists in a category that you align with. Go and study them. Go to their Instagram. Go see where they're performing. What venues are they playing at? Follow them. Steal everything that you see them doing for you. Introduce yourself. Maybe you can open up for them one day. If you're looking to build a name for yourself, go and learn who the journalists are in the scene. Who are they? What platforms are they writing for? Go and introduce yourself to the people who are doing this. If you want to get booked, there's a whole category of talent buyers. Go and introduce yourself. Learn where they are, booking artists and what venues are they working for. It's a great, I think, snapshot if you all are looking to understand, I think, the broader ecosystem in the scene. And it's really, really helpful to kind of utilize that. And then I think from there, you'll be able to also be able to kind of grow.
Yeah, there are bands in Boston that are doing well. Like you
yeah.
don't have to write, the blueprint. They are the blueprint. So you just have to understand, and like it's a little bit of work, but once you find these bands that are thriving, you can kind of see how they got there. I also want to say, I don't think they didn't say anything about Don't Tell Anyone, but NBC Boston is starting a weekly segment exclusively. It's going to be an hour about the local music scene. And so it's going to be airing at 7 p.m. every Wednesday. And they want to do like profiles on local bands. So I'm going in, they're going to do a profile on me. I'm going to be one of the first people. And part of my social media is like talking about local venues and like all the best places or all the places in Massachusetts where you can see live music. And so I'm going to be working with them. And it's going to be airing probably starting in the summer, but they like want to showcase local music. So I think that that's also a really cool thing that's going to be happening. So
Kind of continue on to some of the points that we want to hit, is talking about the various business models for artists and so forth. So the question, my bad. Yes, how do artists, creatives identify a business model that works best for their craft? What have you all done in your career to establish that trajectory?
Thank you. Every artist is going to have different goals. I think that's really important. For me, like, I don't care to be like on like the biggest on the radio or like be the biggest, most famous artist in the world. I'd much rather make a living off my art, which would be doing shows, selling merch, having like going from that first 100 fans to maybe first 1,000 fans and be unrecognizable. There's a lot of underground rappers that I admire and kind of like you said, kind of follow their blueprint that can go to Europe, do a tour for 2-3 months, and if they're walking down the street, no one here would probably.
Bakari JB drives Uber.
Right.
touring the UK
Right,
constantly.
exactly. So, at least in my lane, like that's the path I'm trying to go on, which is like trying to build more of an organic fan base, like selling direct to consumer. I put all my music on Bandcamp. I've made the most money out of anything on that versus streams. Having physicals, like maybe like any type of physical, like vinyl still works. It's expensive, but it can still work. Like cassettes, CDs, things like that. That I think was one of your questions. That still works, at least in my realm. And so I'm trying to do more of that, where like always having merch at the shows I do, always having physicals, and like really building the fan base that way. But everyone's model is gonna be different. Everyone's kind of idea of success is gonna be different. I'm just kind of speaking strictly from like an underground hip hop.
I think social media has really opened my eyes to the world of music. I also knew if I had to do weddings, I would not, not do music anymore. I did like a few wedding gigs, and then I used to work at Encore, like I played in the lounge. It's like 4 hours, 4 nights a week.
Wow.
And it's just like nobody's happy. Like if I have to sound like Mariah Carey for them to be happy, I can't do that. It's like a lose-lose. My mom the other week said, "Oh my God, you cracked the code. It's like OnlyFans, but you get to keep your clothes on." There's so much money. There's so much money in social media. I've never made, like, okay, so the most I've made for a reel, I could have never imagined making that for one gig. Like, my base pay, I always ask for at least $1,200 for one reel, which is insane. You want 30 seconds of me talking to a camera and you're going to pay me that much money? And it's like, it just opens the world, because then I don't have to worry about paying for studio time. I don't have to worry about like financing t-shirts or whatever I want to pay for my artistry. So like, I think social media, if you're an artist, it is such a hack. OnlyFans, but you get to keep your clothes on.
Well, that's gonna be fun to follow up. But it goes back to the artist brand, and what their strengths are and where their value is, and that's their business card. So, if their personality and it's social media, then you're sending it to them. If it's like visuals and I mean, ideally Instagram is kind of like a basic now for everyone, over TikTok. I mean, you have both and you speak to them both differently, but you're sending it to a wide amount of people. Most people just have Instagram. You just want to make sure that's covered. But yeah, physical. I just love that they're not going away. I mean, CDs are back. I mean, my daughter and her friend picked up garbage at the beach last night and they found vinyl and they're like, these are huge CDs. No, they're called vinyl. They're like, and so we spent the next 2 hours at my record player showing them how to play vinyl. But vinyl is expensive, but like also you don't have to have a lot. You just, even if it's a small amount, you burn them, you sign them, you just, it's like these limited edition pieces are great. And by the way, like if you're an independent, if you are like your base is in independent record stores or like Newbury Comics or something, Newbury Comics, these stores are incredible. They just need something to sell to give you some exposure. So an artist out of Portland, Maine, and she was like, we needed to gain awareness and build her brand, and she's streaming, but so is the rest of the world, right? It's like 100,000 plus streams every single day, like or uploads every single day. Like it's insane of the music that's being sent. So, and I'm like, well, what do I need to do to get your email blast and her to do some performances at your store? And they're like, all we need is some CDs. We'll do some like signed CDs. We just need enough for a couple of stores. And yeah, she got the email blast, she got a performance. It's sometimes it's just the gateway in to the community that you want to try to get to.
And I agree across the board, and like one, knowing what kind of artist you want to be, what is it that what are the things that are most important to you, and then like matching the energy and the ethic, the work and the like strategy around that. And then you know, the compared to the CD question, I think is also who your audience is. We talk a lot in my classes around target audience, where a lot of students get really artistically inspired. And I'm like, my music is gonna hit all these people, it's gonna change the world. It's great. I'm like, I hope that for you. And everyone is not going to buy your music. Therefore, everyone is not your target audience. Who is most likely to spend money on you, to spend their time on you, to spend their energy and their effort on you? Those are your target audiences. And the hope is that you catch other folks along the way. But let's get really serious around like, what are you writing about? What do you care about? What is your point of view? What are you trying to say in this world? And who do you feel is like wanting that? Like that's where we kind of get to start with like, who is it that's going to most likely buy your music? I'd start off like, yo, who in here writes music for a 39-year-old Black dude from Detroit? None of y'all. Might I like your music? Absolutely. I might love your music, but like you aren't writing for me. So like I'm not most likely then to buy your stuff. Therefore, everyone is not it. So I think that I kind of like go backwards where I talk to them like, you know, what shoe brands do you love? Let's talk about why you love that shoe brand. What most attracted you to that shoe brand? Why do you spend your money on that particular shoe brand? You are a demographic to that brand, and sometimes helping you know, I think artists look at the business of their art from that perspective. I think if anything, it does justice to allowing an artist to fully be a creative and an artist, while also saying like, hey, if this thing is going to sustain you, you are also a part of a business. So let's look at the strategies that are being used by similar types of businesses and companies and kind of add that. And I think the beautiful thing about the current music scene globally is that because everything has become a business, like you've been able to turn everything that I'm brushing my teeth and I'm making money from people watching me brush my teeth every morning. You can monetize everything now. I think that's been the genius of how we've seen a lot of artists make a living for themselves because they're starting to realize this is the game. Like it's like, yo, this is a music business. This is an industry. There's all of these different pathways to generating revenue. I just need to figure out where I can start, and then I'm going to grow from there and grow from there and grow from there. Yeah.
Well, you bring up a really good point about spending time on you. One of the things I really am fascinated, I love in terms of social is going with all my friends and seeing how many times they get a picture taken with you after the concert.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, it's more than the concert. It's like, I got to get my picture taken with Tim, you know, all of you. That's a really key point. How can you get people, how can you encourage or get people to want to spend the time with you?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's going to circle out and generate more than sitting on TikTok or Instagram, because the finger is fleeting thing, you know? So very much so.
Yeah. What I had to.
Yeah, if you have those opportunities as an artist, I think you should always be receiving the people that are there for you, and that, you know, might have just happened to be at the show and then they newly become a fan. Like interacting back with your audience is also a big thing. I think, you know, even on social media, like social media is a two-way street. Like you need to, if people are commenting like fire emojis on your post and you're just like letting them idle, you should be reacting to those, and like you should be saying, like, being appreciative of that. I think some artists kind of miss that and don't like receive the love back. So I think that's very
But
important.
it is really hard because
Yeah.
they're human.
Oh,
And,
for sure.
and like,
Yeah.
if you're working with toothpaste, which I'm like, bring on the chapstick sometimes, I'm like, just give me an inanimate object. I know what it's gonna be like next week. I know it's gonna show up and do all these things, but it's like, it's so hard it's hard for an artist at the beginning, like, you know, there was no, you think of marketing at the core, it was always one way. Like you defined what the product is, you made all your creative, and you decided where it was going to release, how it was going to be released, and there was no dialogue. Now it's all dialogue, which is good news for artists because you can control your narrative, you control your brand, you're controlling your story like never before, right? You had to like, you could make a great piece of content, but if MTV didn't play it, nobody was going to see it. And your brand and your story was going to go through a press outlet where the journalist could edit or change the storyline. So now we have a beautiful two-way street, but it's relentless for artists because they just want to create music and release it. And some fans are crazy. I mean, it's never enough. So, but artists do have to engage, or they're really, really talented. And then they have to have an amazing content team and try to figure out how to give the fans enough to make them happy, but have some boundaries, not maybe as the extreme that Chapel's been going through.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's like good news, bad news, it's two-way, you know, and that it can be, you know, that can work with you and it can bury you. It can bury you, you know?
Yeah.
Was there any, I know we have a few minutes left, or should we have any
Yeah,
questions?
some, some time for some additional questions.
One or two questions.
Yes,
Here.
I have a question. I just wanted to really quickly though, just follow up to your question. So I grew up here and I went to New York for a long time and now I've moved back. And I've been fascinated with the Boston music scene ever since I was a kid, and I've asked a lot of questions, a lot of it being the same question you have, like what is happening with the Boston music scene? Why isn't it bigger? Why is it? And I think that you all spoke to it in different ways. I think that a lot of it does come down to how the state and the city handles the music scene and also just culture and arts in general. I think that if you go back to the 60s, the college students were a massive part of what made this city great, but because so many venues have gone away and there's so few places that are 21 and under, you really lose that opportunity. So I think there's a lot to unpack there. It's also very fragmented, which you talk about. You know, it tends to almost be like Somerville musicians don't talk to Cambridge musicians, don't talk to, and I think that that's a problem too. I think it has gotten a lot better, but I think that there's still a long way to go. And I'd love to, I mean, you were in Minneapolis. That's a city that really puts a lot behind the musicians there. That scene, you can live as a musician there because there's so many places to play, and the people there really want to see everything that's playing, and that's never really happened here, but I think it could. So I just wanted to say
No,
that.
that's a good point.
I was gonna say I might disagree a little bit. I think that there's this debate that an artist posted on Facebook, like the Boston music is trash, you can't make a living here, blah blah blah. And those are sometimes feel a little clickbaity, like moments. But there's so many musicians that were like, I guess that's you because I'm paying my bills over here. Like I'm good over here. And I would say that what I've had to learn is to quiet the assumptions of like, what is it to be a professional musician?
Yeah.
Like at one point I was like, oh, it has to be me playing my instrument. That's the definition of success as like a full-time musician. I'm like, wait a minute. Like I work at one of the most prestigious music institutions, working with young people in arts administration. I'm a session music. Like, no, I'm a professional musician now. Like there's nothing that I have to go and gather. I actually achieved it already. And I think sometimes artists have to kind of come face to face with some of the like misconceptions that they've been sold, that it has to be one particular way. Just like, I mean, mentioned like, GB was not for Emmy, but there's tons of musicians paying their bills, traveling around the world doing GB, who are also interfacing with, the musicians who are on tour with Beyonce and so forth. When they're not on tour, they're playing weddings. So if you're wanting to be a touring musician, what better way to network up than to go and join a GB band and learn a repertoire and learn what it's like to play the same music over and over again to a track and learn it. Because when you get on that stage with so-and-so, they're expecting you to play the part as it is every night for 3 months or whatnot. So what better training ground than GB if you want to be a touring musician? If that's not what you want, what are the other pathways? I would say for me, being able to sell an idea and identify resources to be able to bring those ideas to life have allowed me to play my instrument, but I've made more money from being able to write a pitch or write a grant and pitch an idea that allows me to play my instrument more than me playing my instrument has. I would say that we live in the New England area, and this is probably one of the most well-resourced, financially resourced scenes for the arts and culture ecosystem. Over $200 million invested into the scene. The amount of grants that are available, the amount of non-financial resources that you can take advantage of in the scene is immense. I probably have written upwards of $350,000 worth of grants and sponsorships in the last 8 years to pay for my ideas, to book my band, to open up for Ghostface Killer and produce our own music festival. Like to pay myself and pay my friends to put on a platform. It's like, I'm not gonna go to the venue and try to like get them to book me. I'm just gonna go and find a space and find some money and book my own thing and put my own friends on a bill and pay everyone. So I think that the scene has a lot of that. And the beautiful thing is that a lot of people are talking and sharing and like, yo, so-and-so, you should apply for this thing. And like, so-and-so, you should do this. And I think I've seen a lot of people realize like, oh, there's a little cheat code here. Like, I don't have to just go this one pathway. I can kind of build the thing for myself.
I also just want to say that anytime I post about like support live music or something, there are so many musicians DMing me being like, yes, great, whatever. But I'm like, I never see you at a show. Like, I think community has to start with the musicians. Like, we have to build something. Community isn't comfortable. If you work at 6 a.m. the next morning and I'm at a show the night before, like, I'm gonna make the most of it. But I don't think like if you're a musician, you're inherently signing up for a social job. Like, you want to be on stage, but you also have to be in the audience. You also have to be playing the role of a fan sometimes. Like, you're not just gonna meet people and by playing shows and expecting people to come to you if you're not going to their shows. Like, and I think that that's something that's really lost, especially as like a Berkeley grad. I never really saw that. And only after I graduated and I went to shows and I started to understand like the local scene that I realized like how rich the culture is. And you were saying like there's a divide of like Somerville musicians and Cambridge musicians and like whatever. But are those musicians going to each other's shows, or are they only going to the venues that are in like walking distance? Right. So like it has to start with us.
Let's have egos.
Yeah. I love to say that I'm a fan of my friends and all my friends are musicians. So it really, it really does. It does count. Other questions, other things that are.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
You said one more?
Sure.
Two. Yeah.
Miss Doria.
Okay. Thank you so much. I want to thank you all. This is amazing panel and a lot of stuff resonated with me. I'm an artist manager and I manage artists from Berkeley. And actually I wanted to address your point about musicians being like supportive with other musicians and actually building community, because my artist and I were just realized that musicians are not our audience. We want to tap into different communities because this is where actual connection, actual bond happens. We're not producing music for musicians, we're producing music for people who don't want to like care about how it was produced, how it was mixed and mastered. This is like the magic. This is supposed to be a magic for us. So we're trying to switch our strategy from like marketing for musicians, for our peers, for like Berkeley students, to actually people who don't even know what genre it is. It's like they like the music, they like the idea, they like the persona, they like the brand, so they resonate with it. So I was like wanted to ask a question originally about starting to build this loyal fan base, not based on music, but based on personality and based on like narrative driven perspective, not like trend driven like social media and stuff. So do you know how to approach this in a like best way when the artist is not just like trendsetter or just like want to do TikToks and Instagram, but wants to do like narrative driven content and explain his positioning, his story behind the process?
So a couple different ways, but I think like I don't think we should be discounting musicians, because if you are not a musician and you just happen to walk into the Lizard Lounge and there's only like 2 other people there, it doesn't matter how good the band is. If you're not a musician and you never go to small shows, you're probably going to be uncomfortable. So it's like musicians are going to be okay with supporting a band that only has 5 other people in the audience. And so I think that like if we do focus on the community and like musicians supporting musicians and like not just going to a show because you want something from the lead singer. Like you just have to go and you just have to be genuine and you just have to say that was a great set and then leave. Because like nobody likes to get off stage and have people hounding them. But I think like musicians should be like the base. It's like your friends and family, and then that makes like non-musicians comfortable to be there. But I think like storytelling is my favorite way that I've been able to connect with musicians. Like I think there's also like such a difference between listening to music and going to a live show. And so something that I like to do at my shows is make everybody say hi to each other. I like pause my set. I say, introduce yourself to somebody you didn't come here with and tell them that you love them. And then, no, it feels silly, but it's like, I've had people come up after me and they're like, wow, I came by myself. Like, you have to think about everybody that's in the room. If they're there by themselves, if they're uncomfortable, they've never been to a show this small before, like making the room feel like more than just a room full of strangers, because that's also how you build community. And so, like, really understanding the difference between like a recorded version of a song versus like, these are people that are here, like, treat them like people. And I think that that's how you can start to build that network out, because even like the bartenders, they're people too. They're working, but if they like your music, if they like who you are on stage, like they might play your song the next day when the bar is just open and there's nobody playing, you know? So like it's understanding that like everybody in the space that you're performing is a human and like has lives, and the sound guy you're probably going to see again if you are playing shows, like, so it's just treating every single person in the space as a human and also helping to curate. Like we have so much power as artists on stage, and it's really trying to take advantage of like, okay, whatever's going on outside these walls, like we have no control right now, right here. So like let's just try to make this room like remind each other that we're humans again. And then I feel like people, if they feel good, then they leave feeling good. And it doesn't matter if it was your best show or like an okay show. If they leave feeling like, okay, I feel seen, I got to meet somebody, like this was just a feel good show, then I feel like that's how you can start a foundation for like somebody who's probably going to listen to your music later.
Yeah.
I would say I feel like you might have some, how have you seen that type of
Yeah.
question happen at like the commercial where you might have more funding stakes at other people?
Necessarily.
Okay. Yeah.
No, but I mean, I think, one thing that I focus on is, it's not just not musicians or yes musicians, it's who, right? It's like who's in the community, who is a vocalist the way that they're a vocalist, who plays banjo on stage the way they play banjo. It is finding the community within it. And then also it's like the storytelling is everything. But it's really focusing on like who it is versus like trying to be so broad, but yeah, you can't, you can't count on musicians to show, you just can't, like, and that's not fair. And like, and by the way, like, that's just so broad. It's like, well, I need everybody who's in accounting to show up. It's like, you just have to be, well, what community do they live in the music world? And can they just collaborate together and be supportive of each other because they have similar interests, they have similar fan communities. It's all about the fan community. Do they want their fans? It's like, I think it's important to focus on that.
And I think it's a reminder to, I try to like draw things because like some of our students get very like, how do I make it? And I kind of draw things to like where you are now is not where you were 5 years ago. And there's a lot to how you got here that you figured the fuck out how to get here. And I would say that's with business. I learned early on that there's a lot of people who have no idea what they're doing. And therefore, like, I'm good. Like, I belong here and I figured it out along the way. So in some ways, ask the right questions. And I think focusing on like, let me try things out. What is it that I want to try for this period of time? And let me gauge it. What did we learn from here? Like there's this the Diary of a CEO podcast. I love that podcast. I highly suggest that you watch it. And he said that one of the strongest things that they do is that they spend 2 hours looking at the analytics. That helps give them information on what to then post next, or how to post next, or when to post next. What data can I pull from how this is being engaged that is going to give me true business decisions on where I'm going to put my money and so forth. So I would say also get back into okay, we don't know how we're going to do this, but let's try some things out. Who's doing some things that we want to steal the way that they do it? And we're going to try out and see what responses we get, and then gauge the next business decision off of some of those things as you are kind of figuring it out, and not get so focused on we got to do this. How are we going to do this? Well, actually go play, go try, go experiment. And you are actually going to learn more about yourself and your business in the experimentation phase, than trying to get the answer. So to say.
And don't force an audience, find out who's gravitating. So if you think you're gonna have a certain fan base, it may not be that fan base, that'd be different.
Exactly. I know we gotta pause here.
Yeah.
We gotta end things, but y'all, thank you so much for your time and the energy and the intention in this room. We really appreciate it.
We could talk for hours.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I don't even know if we answered your questions. Okay.
And I'm sure we can share our contact information if you all would like to follow up and follow along quickly. Is there anything that y'all want to announce? Something that you're yo, go listen, go buy, go. We hear it's marketing.
Yeah, no, I have a show next week at the Cellar in PP. It's a speakeasy in PP, Mass. I'm opening for Terminology. He's a local legend. So pretty pumped about that. But they're starting to do these underground hip hop shows. They had Acrobatic. Big show from Gangstar is going to be there next week. I perform with his son. So check out the Cellar in PP. There's a lot of cool shows going on. So it's my pleasure.
I've had a little bit of a lull in this, but I do a playlist every Monday at local Boston bands. So you can submit to that. I also have a broadcast channel. Again, there's been a little bit of a pause, but starting it up next week again.
Keep it up.
The broadcast channel has over 900 people, and it's exclusively for local shows. So I send flyers, send links. So if y'all have a show, DM me. I'll just share it.
I will.
Oh yeah, just a couple of quick things. One is I definitely love helping people navigate this industry. So that's what I'm doing on the teaching side, but I'm also doing that with brands, and trying to educate people on the music industry and introduce things to the industry. And lastly is there's these amazing college students that are graduating, and I'm telling you, I cannot believe how hard it is for them to get internships and co-ops, and they live the community that you want for your brand and service. So please, if you're in a position to open your company up to internships and starter jobs, they're worth it. They're incredible. So excited.
I'm part of a band called Still Gold. We dropped debuts from Bad Kids last year, so would love for y'all to support that. And you can just follow me at TV_Hall. I have a BAMS Fest is a big music festival, Boston Art Music and Soul Festival, free event, June 26th and 27th, Franklin Park. 9 years, 20,000 people expected this year. So definitely check that out. Not announced yet. It's gonna be dope.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wrap.